Most of what you have been told about spirituality is actually wrong. They make it sound like if you want to be a spiritual person, then you have to give up everything. You have to give up your dreams, you have to give up your ambition, you have to give up your desires if you want to be a spiritual person. But what if I tell you that true spirituality does the exact opposite? True spirituality means that you have to live your life. You have to be the best version of yourself. You can desire abundance. You can desire your dreams. You can be ambitious. Even true spirituality, it encourages people to actually be ambitious, to actually work, to actually try to make their life better. Let's break the biggest myths related to spirituality, and these are the myths which I personally have gone through it and I've learned my lesson. So without further ado, let's start the video. Myth number one is, if I'm spiritual, I shouldn't want more. This is the biggest myth. Like, people tell this all the time, that if you want to be a spiritual person, you have to be content with whatever that you have in your life. I mean, yeah, you have to be grateful for the things that you have. I agree with that point 100%, but that doesn't mean that you have to stop trying to make your life better. You have to stop trying to make your lifestyle better. I mean, for a very long period of time, I actually thought that you have to live like a monk. You have to give up everything. Like, you cannot want, let's say, branded clothes, right? You cannot want your lifestyle to be more luxurious because you are a spiritual person, because you like spirituality. But this myth is actually so misleading, because first of all, it's not wrong to want to have better things in your life, but the thing which people say, in, like, for example, like, if you are a real spiritual person, right, you can have needs, you can have desires, right? You can want your life to be filled with luxurious items, or you can want success. But the thing is, these things that you want are not controlling you anymore. This is the real meaning of being a spiritual person. And the thing is that if you are controlled by your needs, right, by your desires, that is wrong, because these things will constantly make you unhappy, right? So you can want things, right? You can want success, you can be an ambitious person, but the only thing which you have to do is, you cannot let these things control you. You cannot let these things question yourself. You cannot let these things determine your self-worth. The main point here is, you can have a dream, you can be ambitious person, you can have your goals, you can have, or like, you can expect more from your life, because at the end of the day, it's your life. I don't get to decide what you want in your life. Nobody get to decide what you want in your life. You're the only one who gets to decide what you want in your life, right? But just don't be obsessed, right? Don't operate from scarcity mindset, right? Just do your work, work towards your goals, work towards your dreams, do whatever you want. Just don't let your obsession with your dreams, or like with your desires, or don't let your fear of never getting these things that you want in your life, right, control you, or control the way that you think. You don't have to be a monk, right? You don't have to suddenly stop demanding more from your life, right? You can be spiritual and you can still be a baddie. Myth number second is, suffering means that you are on a right path. So many people, they preach this idea that suffering means that you are on a right path, that now you're going to get what you want. But what if suffering doesn't mean that you're on a right path? Instead, it's trying to show you what's not right in your life. If the universe is trying to show you that, look, this thing is hurting you, and I want you to choose your self-worth, I want you to choose your self-respect, and I want you to get out of that situation. For example, right, someone is in a toxic relationship, right? That relationship is constantly draining her. Her partner is constantly abusive, he's toxic, and she should just leave that relationship if she wants to grow, right? But she thinks that this is just her karma, right? This is just universe trying to test her, universe trying to make her a more patient person, right? Or like universe is trying to give her, more wisdom, and that her relationship will be better if she just endures it, if she just passes the test that universe is throwing in her way. What if that situation is trying to tell her, is trying to put sense in her brain that, girl, you deserve so much better than this, and that you need to choose your self respect, you need to prioritize yourself. And I say this thousand of times, and I'll say it again. If you don't prioritize yourself, no one will. And if you don't prioritize yourself, then to be honest, you don't have any right to expect people to prioritize you when you don't do it yourself. But so off topic, but what if the universe is trying to tell her that, girl, you deserve better, leave that man, work on your self respect, work on yourself, and go date someone who's better than him. Like, let's say, a man, he's unhappy in his job, right? That job constantly drains him. He's always exhausted, right? I mean, from the bottom of his soul, deep down in his bones, he knows that that job is not right for him. He knows that he just can't keep doing it anymore because he's always overworked, he's always depressed, and he always feels like he just can't do it anymore. So what if the universe is not trying to test him? What if the universe is not trying to see how much pain endurance he have, but universe is trying to show him that, look, you're not happy here, so you can maybe look for another job, you can look for another company. What if universe is trying to tell that? And I heard this quote somewhere, and it says that pain shows you where healing needs to be done, and suffering happens when you ignore that message. So the lesson was never to suffer. The lesson was always to listen, and that is what we don't do nowadays. We just don't listen to anyone. We just don't listen. We always want to say, we always want to argue, we always want to judge, but the moment you are being told to listen, you are being told to just stay calm for a minute and listen what the other people have to say, we don't do it anymore. And as a result, we suffer. As a result, we are constantly anxious, we are constantly angry, and then we blame it on universe, we blame it on spirituality. Because look, spirituality never preaches you to always be in pain. Spirituality always teaches you how to live, how to be kind, how to always be peaceful, how to never disturb your inner peace, and how to never let anyone disturb your inner peace. That is what real spirituality means. Myth number 3 is, if I let go, everything will fall apart. For example, right? Think about someone who's constantly preparing for their exam, right? Like, for example, you're constantly preparing for a competitive exam, right? You're always studying, you're always preparing, you're always strategizing everything that, okay, I have to score this marks, I have to do this, I have to do that, right? But you feel guilty. For example, right, like you are just tired of studying all day and you want 10 minutes or like 15 minutes of break, but you're guilty because you're like, if I don't work constantly, right, if I don't overwork myself, that then I will fail, then I will never get anything. You feel guilty to take a rest, you feel guilty to live your life, you feel guilty to enjoy everything. And do your grades improve after doing all that? No, it doesn't. It only gives you anxiety. You're only stressed. In fact, you're constantly stressed, and it demotivates you for a reason because you're like, I stopped living my life. I felt guilty to rest. I was constantly productive. From the moment I wake up to the moment I went to sleep, I was overworking myself, and I still didn't get good results. My grades still didn't improve. Moral of the story is, Letting go doesn't mean that everything will fall apart. And let me say this again, right? I was also one of those people, I always used to think that if I don't overwork myself, right? If I'm not busy, like I own a multinational company, like I'm a prime minister of my own country, then I will 100% fail, you know. But did I fail? No. Did I become a loser? Did I lost a competition? No. So you can rest. You know, you don't have to constantly be productive. You can rest for a while. You can prioritize your health. You can prioritize your mental peace. That's okay. Because see, your competition is not me. Your competition is not your friends, your brothers, your sisters, your neighbors, people around you. Your competition is your past self. And you always have to make sure that you are 1% better than how you were yesterday. Maybe yesterday you were lazy, right? Maybe yesterday you just didn't feel like studying or feel like working. But today you showed up for yourself, right? So that makes you better than your past self. So don't feel like you have to control everything. Don't let this unnecessary burden disturb your inner peace, right? Just leave some things and just do what you can and don't stress about things that you cannot control. Because you stressing, like, come on, ask yourself, right? If you are constantly stressing about your future, about your results, will that make your results better? No, it wouldn't. So don't stress, don't be anxious, just try to do your work, right? And try to take rest sometimes. Number 4, if you are grateful, then you cannot complain, you cannot want better things. This is the biggest myth that I busted, and that is, look, you can be grateful for things that you have in your life, and you have to be grateful for the things that you have in your life. I agree with that 100%, but that doesn't mean that you cannot want better things. We discussed this even in myth number 1, right? And we are going to discuss it again. So, you can be grateful and you can still want better things in your life. That doesn't make you ungrateful person. We, as a human, we are here to grow, you know, and you can never grow if you keep, or like if you're stuck in your present, right? Example, right? You just got a job, right? You are happy, right? But after 2 3 months you just realize that you are underpaid, you're overworked, your boss is always like screaming, always giving you extra work, right? The salary is low compared to how much you working hours are so much, right? And all you want to do is you just want to leave that job, you just want to go look for that same post in a different company. But instead of doing that, you're here thinking that, okay, I mean, at least I have a job, right? I have to be grateful. What do you mean? Come on. So many people mistake this for ungrateful, because see, being ungrateful in life means that you're constantly jealous. You don't appreciate the things that you have in your life, right? And you always want more and nothing can satisfy you anymore. Even if you will get millions of dollars, right? Millions of money, billions of money, you get a luxury mansion, you're still not satisfied. You still compare yourself with people around you. That is being ungrateful. As being grateful means that you are acknowledging your present, right? You are happy that you got to, or like you are happy that you're born in a financially stable household, right? You have supporting parents, you have such an amazing friends, right? Your parents have the means to support your dreams, right? You acknowledge all of that and you're genuinely grateful for everything that you have in your life, but you are still going to work for better things, right? You are still going to work for a better lifestyle, right? For a better future. And that doesn't make you seem ungrateful, because you're not here comparing. Because, see, look, you don't want a luxurious lifestyle just because celebrities have those lifestyles, just because maybe your friend have that lifestyle. No. You want to have that lifestyle because you're willing to put that work to get that very same lifestyle. And that is okay. And I actually heard this somewhere, because I used to think this for a very long time, that if I want more money, if I want to live in a bigger city, if I want to have my own apartment one day, right, then that means that I'm ungrateful. And then I heard this quote somewhere, and it said that, it was not a quote exactly, but that the person he was explaining, he explains that wanting growth in your life doesn't make you less spiritual person, doesn't make you a very ungrateful person, because spirituality doesn't discourage your ambitions, doesn't discourage your dreams, right? Spirituality, encourages you to be more ambitious, to dream, to have more goals, to want a better life. Like, you can have all of that, but don't let those things affect your mental peace, affect your inner peace, affect your mental health. Don't constantly obsess. That is what spirituality means. And look, so after you hear this, right, go ahead and fulfill your goals. Be more ambitious. Like, if you want to have a better lifestyle, what's the harm in wanting better things for yourself, right? And look, being grateful doesn't mean that you have to settle for less. Being grateful means that yes, you acknowledge your present, yes, you acknowledge the things that you have, and you want to work to get more things, right? You want to work to be better. Like, you're acknowledging the things that you have in your present, and you're still working to get more for your future. That is the real meaning of being grateful. This number 5 is, spiritual people are always patient, understanding, they are always soft, they don't get angry. Look, don't get me wrong. Yes, spiritual people, they are more understanding, they understand everyone's situation, right? But they also have their own limits. That is what I want to say, that they have their own limits. We are human too, yes, we are spiritual, yes, we do love spirituality, we practice spirituality, but that doesn't mean that we don't get angry, that doesn't mean that we will always be understanding, and that doesn't mean that you can mess with us all you want and we wouldn't say a thing. That is not true, because we are human too. We have emotions, and just because we are spiritual, that doesn't mean that you can come to us, talk to us however you want, right? And if you want to be a spiritual person, get this idea out of your mind that you always have to be understanding, right? Being spiritual literally means that you have your own boundaries, you know you don't do things, or like, you don't do things to please other people. You're not a people pleaser. You don't let anything affect your inner peace. This is what being a spiritual person, or like, this is what the real meaning behind spirituality. And you can be angry, yes, like if someone is constantly bad mouthing you, right? He's constantly testing your limits, they are trying to mess with you. Obviously, you will be understanding, but to a certain limits, and once that limit is crossed, you will react, because every action has its equal and opposite reaction. Newton's third law of gravity. So, f- obviously, like, if you're going around and harassing people, obviously they are going to react, right? And yeah, get this idea out of your head. that spiritual people are always soft, always understanding, you can mess with them. No, you cannot. We are also humans, right? And if you want to practice spirituality and if you're not doing it just because you think that you always have to be understanding, no. You can just literally tell them that, hey dude, I mean, I get it why you're doing all of this, but I just cannot take it anymore. You're crossing your limits. These are my boundaries, and you don't get to cross those boundaries anymore. Miss number 6 is you are always incomplete. People, they think this, right, that you are incomplete and that someone else will come in your life, and that person will complete you. Like, for if you're a woman, then a man will come into your life, he will complete you. And if you're a man, then a woman will come into your life and she will complete you. That is wrong. That is literally so wrong. We are not incomplete, right? We All we have to do is we have to connect with our inner self. That is what we have to do. And that void that you're feeling inside, that void can be because your inner child is not healed. That void can be because of constant, like, because you're constantly stressed, because you're constantly anxious. That void can be because of anything. And it's not because, like, come on. Okay, so for my majority of my 21 years of existence, I constantly used to think that there's something missing in my life, you know. I mean, yeah, I have supportive parents, yeah, I have supporting friends, yeah, I have a good life. I'm grateful for it, but why am I still feeling that void? That is what I used to think. And I used to call I just cannot believe, you guys, I actually thought that because I haven't met my soulmate yet, that is the reason why I constantly feel this void inside of me. And then I started realize, after so many lessons, after so much of inner work, after so much of healing, I don't feel that void anymore. I don't feel that void anymore. And that void that I was feeling was because I was not connected with my inner self. I was not healed from all my past traumas. I was not healed from all my bad experiences that I had. I was not healed from all those bullying that happened, and that was the reason why I felt that void. You know, because see, if you have experienced traumatic, or like if you have gone through traumatic experience, right? If you were bullied, or like if you were like, if life constantly, things were going wrong in your life, you know, like it can be anything, any traumatic experience, you start detaching with your inner self because you don't want to accept that these things happened with yourself. Like, you don't want to accept that yes, your friends were the one who traumatized you. Yes, the people that you trusted more ended up hurting you the most. And we try to run away from our problems, we try to run away from the healing, because healing starts with acceptance. And nobody wants to accept that these things happen with them, right? My reason was because of this detachment that I had with my inner self, because I didn't want to accept that these things happen. I didn't want to accept that my friends were the one who bullied me. I didn't want to accept that the bullying was that bad. And once I healed, once I accepted, I moved on, and now I don't feel that void anymore. So you don't need another human to complete yourself. You are capable of that. You have so much potential inside of you, right? And yeah, you may say things like, "Oh, but you don't know me. I'm really not that capable. I don't know anything." This is wrong. You know everything. You survived those experiences, right? And that says a lot about you. So be proud of yourself. And yes, you are capable of so many things, and yes, you have the potential, and yes, you are amazing. You just have to accept it. You just have to really um you just really have to be obsessed with yourself, right? And not in a very unhealthy way, in a healthy way, you know. And once you have that self-confidence, you will realize so many things, and you will constantly be proud of yourself. I am constantly proud of myself because sometimes I think that, oh my god, I survived that. I mean, how did I survive that? And then I feel proud of myself. I feel proud of my past self that, okay, I mean, she did great. So, yes, be a little proud of yourself. And once again, I'm gonna say this, you don't need another human to complete you. You were never incomplete to begin with. You're always complete and you'll always be complete. So give yourself some credits. Next myth is, if something is meant for me, I will feel excited and I will be 100% sure. This is actually so misleading because most of the time, right, the things that are right for us, the things that we need to do, we are always scared of doing those things, because look, getting out of your comfort zone is never easy, it's never exciting, right? 99% of the time it's never exciting, right? Like, for example, right, you have never been given this chance to lead a group, right? Like, or you were always the one who constantly worked alone, and now all of a sudden you are given this chance that you have to lead this group, you have to lead your group members. Wouldn't you feel scared? Wouldn't you feel like, oh my god, how will I do this? I mean, I never did anything like this, I'm not capable of doing this. So does that mean that it's not meant for you? No. How do you know it's not meant for you unless you have tried that? So, majority of the time, you don't feel excited at all. You feel scared, you feel nervous, you feel anxious, you know. So, for example, right, you have been applying for a job and you finally landed a job, but you didn't feel excitement. You didn't feel that feeling that, okay, I want to do this. I'm 100% sure this is going to work, and as a result you don't take up on that opportunity, you just live that opportunity. Does that mean that opportunity was never for you? No. So don't, because look, emotions can be misleading sometimes, not every time that you're excited for something is gonna be good for you, because you can look up, there are so many examples of people, right, they were never sure that the thing that they are working on, the thing that they are doing will ever work. They were never sure, they were never excited, they were never 100% sure, they didn't get that feeling that, oh my god, I know this is gonna work, but it ended up working, you know so don't let your emotions fool you, don't let your emotions um make you miss out on such great opportunities. Because in my case, right, when I started this YouTube channel, I was like, this is never gonna work, why would anyone ever watch my videos? And I didn't feel that excitement, I didn't feel that feeling that, oh my god, this is it for me, this is my purpose. I never felt that feeling, that this is the reason why I was born on this beautiful planet, on Earth. No, I didn't at all. In fact, I was scared, I was constantly anxious, I was sometimes stressed, because it was something which I never did. I had to constantly get out of my comfort zone, and I still do sometimes. So, does that mean that this was never for me? No. And if I would have believed this fact that if you feel excited, then that thing is gonna be for you, I wouldn't even have gone ahead and opened this channel and started this channel. I wouldn't have. So sometimes the things that are meant for you will scare you, sometimes those things will make you question your ability, make you think like, okay, is this really for me? But the moment you do that, the moment you get out of your comfort zone, that is when you realize that, okay, this was for me and I'm actually enjoying it, and most of the time, right, like, we end up doing things we never thought we would, because who doesn't love to be in their comfort zone, right? I love to be in my comfort zone. You love to be in your comfort zone, but if we have to grow, then we can never grow if we are always in our comfort zone. So sometimes life forces you to get out of your comfort zone so that you can grow, you can see your own potential, you can unlock your own potential. And next myth is that you can never question God. I actually think that this is kind of misleading because, come on, right? You cannot follow anything blindly. Okay, like now you're not having any questions, but maybe later on you will have questions, and having questions is not a bad thing. Having questions actually mean that you really care and that you're actually trying to learn something. And come on, God doesn't get offended if you constantly ask him questions. Why would he? Instead, God gives you the means so that you can get your answer, right? And just because you constantly question him, just because you constantly question that, am I going to get my manifestation or not? Am I going to be rich or not? Am I going to be prettier or not? That doesn't mean that your manifestations will never come to you. That is literally so misleading, and I hate this when people say that if you question universe, then you wouldn't get your manifestation. Why? That is my question. Why do I have to obey someone, or why do I have to follow something blindly? Put this thing in your mind that you will get your manifestations by working, and if you question universe, that is not a bad thing. That means that you care. That means that it's okay, and come on, we all have doubts sometimes, right? Does that mean that we don't have any right to question anyone? No, it just means that you're actually serious about this, and you actually want to learn more. You want to find out more answers. So your faith is not corrupted if you question God. Faith is alive. Faith is not blind. So that is it for today's video, and if you like my video, then like, share and subscribe my channel, and we'll meet next time. Bye bye.